All right, so big day for education. The first CBSE results after the new calculation, which takes into account what the student has done in class 11 and in preliminary exams took place today. Those results were out. So we have seen girls scoring better than boys. Nearly 99.37% of 14 lakh students have passed the exam. 90 plus scorers remain almost the same as last year, with 1.5 lakh students scoring in that range. 95 plus scorers is over 70,000. Even though the results for both boys and girls is over 99%, girls have performed slightly better this time. So it's interesting because we are getting used to a new way of life as far as education is concerned. The CBSE results out today shows that a new system is being put into place. What seems to be in limbo, though, is continued education for our children at school and college levels. Yes, education has been going on online, and some schools moved to it pretty seamlessly, effortlessly and quickly in the first few months after the lockdown. But if you take the bigger picture, there is no denying, and educationists will back this up, policy makers and policy watchers will back this up, there is no denying that there are a large number of Indian students who are left behind right now. They have had 18 months of education just off the books. Many may have forgotten what they learned. There is a large number of students who don't have access perhaps to an online device. If they have a device, they have to share it with other children. If they even manage to do that, they may not have internet connections. And if all of this exists, they may not have the support system at home required to ensure learning even in an online environment. So in the midst of all of this, what are we to do? Can we continue like this for much longer? What are the options to go back to school? And if malls, multiplexes, restaurants, theatres can open, why can't schools? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Dr. Jyoti Gupta, KR Mangalam World School. She's the director and principal there. Dr. V. Ravi is member of the Karnataka COVID Task Force, and Ritika Khera is associate professor at IIM Ahmedabad. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us. I would like to get Dr. Jyoti Gupta's perspective first on this topic. Dr. Gupta, I'm sure as an educationist, you and everyone in your fraternity is right now grappling with this very question. Should we bring the kids back? What are the main challenges for you right now?
We definitely want to bring the children back into schools, and I'm sure the children are also wanting to come back to the school, because all these children who are in the age group of, let us say, 3 to 4 years to 18 years, they have been confined at home for the past year and a half, where the elder people are at least going out to offices. They have resumed the normalcy, in different intervals of time. These children haven't been able to go back to the school. So they are yearning to go back to the school and in a normal school. So there are a couple of challenges that are there. Although if we look at the other countries, the schools have been reopened, they've been shut again, they reopened again. So there is a lot to learn from them. At the same time, what we have to understand is that we have a lot of diversity in the schools, and the sheer numbers that we have in our schools, that is, a school of 1,000 children is also considered as a small school. So we have 2,000, 3,000, 6,000, 7,000 children in our schools. How are we going to manage all these children every day in the school with all the COVID protocols? That is a question. The second is that we've seen in the first wave and in the second wave that though the disease is a little kinder to the children, but at the same time, the children become the carriers for the older people at home. And they are asymptomatic. One doesn't come to know that they are carrying the infection. And they go and infect the older people in the family, the teachers. We've lost so many teachers, we've lost so many principals, because that was the time, the second wave, just before the second wave, that the practicals were going on in schools. And we just had the 10th and the 12th in school. Still, when the teachers had to go out to take the practicals, they had to take the practicals in the schools. There are so many teachers who got infected, and their families got infected also. So there has been so much of loss and grief around that it becomes very difficult to imagine that with the numbers that we have just now, how are we going to manage in the schools? Now, there is a talk that we could call the alternate roll numbers to school. The children could come back to the school for 3 days. There's a talk of hybrid learning. Because what we should not forget is that the schools, the teachers, and the children adapted to the technology just before the government came out with the guidelines. In fact, the government came out with the guidelines later. The schools, within 1 week of the closure of the schools last year in 2020 April, reopened online. And I agree that we grappled with the technology, the new lesson plans had to be made, the new engagements for the children.
Let me come back to you for more aspects of this debate. Let's break it up. No, let's break it up. 1 minute. To have a coherent, cohesive debate, let's break it up and go point by point. So point number one, which I think is the key takeaway of what Dr. Jyoti Gupta's opening statement is, that after the first wave, when kids came back to school, especially 10th, 11th, 12th, who were allowed to in limited numbers, they became, in a sense, carriers, and a lot of teachers and principals felt sick. Older people in the family also are vulnerable. Let me go across to Ritika Khera for her point of view on this. Ritika, we know that underprivileged children especially are suffering. To expect them to move coherently and easily to an online schooling and actually get something out of it is becoming difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not becoming difficult. It's more or less come to a standstill since the past 1.5 years. And I think it's a telling comment on the nature of our democracy and society that attention is being paid to them 1.5 years later. So just to give you some sense of the scale of the problem, according to a 2019 survey, only 1/3 households had smartphones. In many, as you said earlier, in many homes, just one smartphone will be used or shared by siblings, maybe even by the parent because it belongs to the parent. I don't know if you remember in Goa some months ago, one young student, he died by suicide because his phone screen had cracked and his father, who was a bus driver or conductor, I think couldn't have it repaired. So the consequences for these children who are not seen and not even part of the debate are really serious because it's the next generation. I think maybe to go back to the point that you raised about children who get infected in school, I think the way forward there is for adults in those homes and, of course, the teachers and principals to remain masked all the time. And, of course, now we also, the vaccination rates are going up. So I think there are ways of bringing children back. We could have been doing a lot of this over the past year, once a week if every class goes to school and has some interaction with the teacher. Even that would have helped quite substantially. The other thing is that the Sero survey, the most recent Sero survey shows that more than 50% of children are already exposed. So what are we protecting them from? They're already, wherever they are, they have had exposure. And we know now, in spite of the sort of fake neuse that went around about a month or two ago, that children will be the worst affected.
Now Ritika, that has been, Ritika, the concern is not just about the children. 1 minute, just allow me to interject. The question is not about the children alone contracting COVID. Of course, that is a concern. But from day one, the concern as far as kids are concerned, kids go, is that there will be carriers. They could be asymptomatic carriers if they're going back home and they have grandparents. Those people could be at risk. The teachers and, the workers inside the school could be at risk, and elderly in their homes could be at risk. So
that's right. So
then always has been the schools will become epicenters of fresh infections.
No, so where children are in households where children are going to school, the parents and other adults need to mask up and be especially careful. These joint families now are a small fraction of the total households. So 3-generation families are not that many. It's less than 20%, if I remember correctly, but I stand corrected. It's declined quite substantially. I think there are ways to move around that. And of course, from the government side, there has to be constant pressure to increase the supply of vaccines so that goes up. besides that, I feel it is also a good opportunity to teach children COVID appropriate behavior along with other important habits that are formed at school, which includes washing hands, which is important even if there's no COVID. You know, this kind of personal hygiene has other nutritional and health benefits for children, and this could become an opportunity. Many groups have put out protocols that can be followed for schools to reopen. And we can also obviously learn from some of the other countries where schools were the last to shut down and are always the first to open up at the end of, a serious wave in those countries. The other point that I would quickly like to make is that, there are efforts to reopen schools across the country in several states. But always the emphasis is at the wrong end. It's on the board exam students or the higher classes. But the children who need most interaction with the teacher and with peers are the younger children. It's there that the danger is the greatest, and there needs to be very significant attention to that right now.
In fact, at one of the health briefings, this was the message that came out from the Niti Aayog as well, that maybe start pre-primary first. I want to get a medical and policy opinion on this. Dr. Ravi, thank you for your patience. I just want to get your perspective. Now, what is the solution? Is it possible that if you have everyone working at the school, all adults vaccinated, and everyone at the child's house vaccinated, there could be a safe environment for children to return to school?
Thanks, Tamanna, for having me on the show. You're talking of a very, very ideal situation. And if you have such a situation, I'll be the happiest person. All adults in the home are vaccinated and children can go to school. Now, since you asked me about medical facts, let me tell you 3 facts. Firstly, children are and will continue to be susceptible. Seropositivity does not mean protection. I want to get absolutely clear. They are the most vulnerable. 50% of them are still not exposed. There is no vaccine for them. That does not mean we should not open up schools. Please understand medical facts. They are highly vulnerable. Thank God they have milder infections. There is no one size fits all. There are states where cases are surging. They have to take decision on when and how to open schools. You cannot have a uniform policy for entire country. Every city, every district should tread cautiously based on data. Data alone should drive interventions. The ICMR, the Government of India, the Niti Aayog have very rightly said it's better to open up from the lower level for schools. I think there is a lot of sense in that. Start with primary education. They need most interaction. Also, remember that there is no opening completely. We should be mentally prepared for an interrupted online, offline, online, offline. We should also be more innovative in terms of calling different classes, odd classes on odd days and even classes on even days. These are things that we should experiment with. But there's no question of opening up from pre-KG to 12th standard, all of a sudden saying education has not been there for 1.5 years. Let's go gung-ho and open up everything. It has to be very measured. It has to be cautious. And of course, vaccination. In another 2 months, there will be vaccine available for children. Hopefully that will ease the situation. Until then, I think we have to be cautious. Over.
No, so Dr. Ravi, just a follow-up question there. Vaccination could be available in another 2 months, but so far we're seeing the trend around the world that vaccines are being made available for those 12 years and above. The point made earlier in the program is that the very young children are the ones who are most lost. I mean, I know of children who've started their school life in front of a screen. and don't understand that they need to sit in front of a screen. I mean, it's a futile exercise, to be honest. They're missing out on these developmental phases of social skills, etc. My question to you simply is that if kids are now going with their parents, which they are, to public places, they're going to malls, shopping centers, cinema halls, to each other's houses, they're going everywhere. They're not vaccinated. Is there more danger to them in school then, medically speaking?
Can I first correct one misconception? India is different from other countries. It has started trials for 2 to 18, both with Covaxin, and yesterday Covishield has also given permission. So in another 2 months, results will be available 2 to 18. It is not like the Western world where they went 12 to 18 first, and now they are going below 12. So I believe that our strategy is much better. Number two, regarding your question, they are going out everywhere. What is the point in holding them back from school? The answer is school is a closed setting where there is crowding. Whereas of course, it is very important that parents should be educated not to take their children to malls, closed spaces, and closed markets. That is something that we have to talk about because they can catch the infection equally outside other than from schools. So I think it's very important that we convey the right messages over.
Okay. I want to go back to Dr. Jyoti Gupta. What is the conversation on? I mean, we've been in this state, and I have been having this conversation with various experts on this show now for several months. I want to take it forward today. I want to understand if schools are figuring out how to go about this. You talked about calling alternate roll numbers. There are some countries in the world which already have the hybrid model. The teacher is sitting in class and teaching a few students. She's also in front of a screen where some students at home are joining in. Are schools working towards those formulations and trying to implement them at some point, or being ready with them when the occasion arises?
Absolutely, we are doing that. The schools in UP had opened from October onwards. So from October to March, for almost 5 to 6 months, we had called the children to school. And that is what was being done. All the children who wanted to take the classes from home were taking the classes from home, and the same class that was being taken in the school was being relayed. So this hybrid model and this choice of coming to the school and, not just a mandate of everyone in the school will have to continue for some more time, because you can't force the children and the parents if they do not feel secure enough to send the children to the school. Because again, the parents go back and say that we have older people in the house, we can't expose. And the second wave has seen that it was not just the loss of the older people, it was the loss of a lot of young people. We have so many children in our school where both the parents are not there anymore, or one parent is not there. So I would say the way forward now is that you give a choice to the children to come in. Just like Dr. Saab said a little while back, we have to work on getting the children in a staggered form to the school. It's not possible to mask up and sit for 6 hours and travel for 2 hours. We also have to see that the children do not travel in the public transports. When the children are coming in a bus, it is practically and financially not viable to run the bus in half the capacity, because anyways, the transport is subsidized by the schools. So there are a lot of questions which have to be answered. There's a lot of planning which has to be done. The entire section cannot be called together. The alternate roll numbers can be called together. What is happening in the class, the children can study whatever doubts they have sitting at home. They can come the next day and they can clear their doubts the next day. But easier said than done. Once we do this on the ground, we will realize whether we are actually achieving the bridging of the learning gaps, or we are just doing this exercise so that the children come out of their homes and they, some kind of relief in their emotional and social well-being, is given to them. So there are a lot of questions, there are a lot of conversations, but one formula has not been derived just now, till now, as to what is the way forward. How are we going to work?
Absolutely. No, we are going to have to find a way around this. Ritika, so a lot of surveys show that parents themselves are not willing, at least a majority of parents are not willing to send their kids to school unless they are vaccinated. Have you seen that trend continue in the parents and the families that you've been in touch with, number one? And number two, do you think that we can wait till kids are vaccinated, even if it takes another 6 to 8 months, for a safer outcome?
So let me start by pointing you towards the joint statement that was issued earlier this month by UNICEF and UNESCO, saying that schools must reopen and it cannot wait for everyone to be vaccinated. Number one. Number two, I think that where parents are reluctant and where their children have options at home to study online comfortably, they can continue to be at home. But the vast majority of Indians, they don't even have devices, right? So even the representativeness of these surveys, where they find a majority of parents not willing to send their children, that is in question. I think if we were to have a representative survey, then what you will find is that parents are desperate for their children to go back to school. Number three, what Dr. Jyoti said earlier is very, very important. The fact that going to school is not just about bookish learning or book learning or passing exams. It's about the overall development of the child, where the child has emotional needs, socialization happens at school. Just this morning in the Bhaskar, there is a news report of one hospital, I think in Delhi, where they said they are seeing 30% increase in eyesight related issues with children, watering eyes, dryness, even getting cross-eyed, and they're having to do procedures. So there are health impacts on these children, not just physical, but also mental health impacts. So for healthy development of these children, the schools need to reopen. I'm not saying it has to be full on. So let me give you one example of what the Chhattisgarh state government's order. What they have said is that to reopen a school, the Gram Sabha has to approve it, number one. Number two, these Gram Sabha approvals can be sought only in districts where the positivity rate is below 1%. And number three, even where these two conditions are met, only 50% attendance will be allowed. Also, I'd like to add that most rural schools and perhaps even many urban schools, even in Delhi, schools are very well ventilated. They are not closed rooms in that sense. They are ventilated spaces, certainly better ventilation than, as you were mentioning, cinemas and malls, etc. So I don't think that is as much of a worry as was being made out. And finally, I'd like to reiterate that Dr. Guleria of AIIMS has issued 2, if not 3 statements rebutting this fear that is around the susceptibility or extra susceptibility of children to COVID. If anything, the little evidence that's available is suggesting that they are likely to get milder attacks. And I understand that the fear is not just children, but also whether they'll become carriers and infect elderly people in their homes. And for that, we have to find other solutions. We cannot jeopardize the future of an entire generation because there are so many different options available to restart school, even if in a stop, start kind of fashion.
We have to start somewhere. Maybe the time has come to take this discussion forward and give these options. Perhaps leave it to a more localized decision, depending on what the schools, the parents and those localities can manage. Well, thank you to all of you for joining us on this very important discussion this evening on whether kids are ready to go back to school.